Good morning, Malta, and goes on. Welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Chris Perugine, with Paula Kauki. Hi, Paula, how are you?
Bonjour, I'm fine, thank you. I hope all our viewers are too.
Lovin Daily is brought to you by Browns and You, and let's start with the headlines. So, restaurants and salons have mixed feelings about opening up on Friday. We'll talk about some of the challenges that they're facing and how some of them are dealing with it. A survey about our sex lives. Fewer people are having sex and more are watching porn. We also had an update on a very important case that developed earlier this year, the police overtime scandal. There's been no charges so far, and 3 officers have spoken out about basically wanting to be charged to have their day in court. A funny story as well about the economy minister, Silvio Schembri, who tried to troll a 15-year-old on Twitter and failed. And we'll talk about the Prime Minister's response to the social media scandal. He's basically saying it's a case closed. We'll talk a bit about some of the things he said at the famous press conference he gave a couple of days ago. So, Paula, tell us a bit about what's happening with restaurants and salons.
Dawk li ħasbu li l-ftuħ ta' ristoranti u il-hair salons, nail technicians u x'nafjina nhar il-ġimgħa se jfisser il-tmiem ta' il-problema finanzjarja li jaffaċċjaw kellhom jaħsbuha darbtejn fejn fir-ristoranti għaliex realizzaw illi l-ħwienet ma jistgħux jibqgħu jieħdu l-ammont ta' klijenti li kienu qabel beda il-COVID. Fil-fatt, nibdew mill-hairdressers. Il-hairdressers l-bieraħ kien hawn daqsxejn ta' ħwit għaliex kien hemm min qed jinkwieta illi qabel ma jiftaħ il-hair salon tiegħu ser ikollu jġib xi ċertifikat u bekk ma jistax jiftaħ nhar il-ġimgħa. Din ġiet iċċarata fil-fatt kull min għandu salon u juża l-ilma tal-mejn jista' jabad u jiftaħ bla ċertifikati, kull min għandu tank irid jiżvojta u jarġa' jimli minħabba l-ġanella peress li ilhom ma jużaw l-ilma m'għandhomx bżonn ċertifikati janqas u allura l-ġimgħa jistgħu jiftħu il-bibien tagħhom. Però da ma jfissirx li mhux ħajkollhom problemi għaliex ma jistgħux jibqgħu jdaħħlu l-ammont ta' nies li kienu jdaħħlu qabel fis-salon fil-fatt irid ikun hemm persuna kull minn 10 metri kwadri u bekk jew iridu jiġu riorganizzati s-siġġijiet jew inkella jridu jonqsu. Din hija problema ovvjament isser ikollhom inaqsu l-ammont ta' appuntamenti li jieħdu u ovvjament da jfisser inqas dħul għal hairdressers. Fejn jislu r-ristoranti qegħdin jaffaċċjaw l-istess problema għaliex ma jistax ikollhom ħafna mwejjed dej xulxin. Min għandu l-imwejjed barra ser ikun jista' jitfa' iktar imwejjed, però min għandu biss indoor space ser ikollu numru limitat immens ta' imwejjed. Din waslet biex numru ta' sidien ta' ristoranti rinomati f'pajjiżna qegħdin jgħidu isma' mhux vala pena li niftħu għaliex l-ispejjeż ħajkunu ħafna ikbar midħul li jista' jkollna. Irridu naraw kif ħataħdem din il-ġimgħa, irridu naraw kif ir-ristoranti ser jadattaw. X'taħseb Chris dwar anti?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that you have some restaurants who are saying we'd rather not open and will continue the delivery service. I suspect that for a number of restaurants, this new delivery lifestyle has become maybe more profitable than having a restaurant with many staff and a lot of other overheads. So we had places like New York West and Fat Louis who are saying we're just going to continue delivering. We also had, I think, a very interesting complaint by Sean Gravina of Crust, who's saying, we're being asked to, if we have outdoor space, we can only use the outdoor space. This was clarified to him, where he was told that he has to choose between his indoor and his outdoor space. And this is, another grievance of restaurant owners because they're saying, business is going to be down already. Some people are going to be afraid to go to restaurants. People have less disposable income to start with. Restricting the use of our space even more than to respect social distancing rules becomes untenable. And we had the Association of Catering Establishments saying that all these added costs and reduced business is going to cause many restaurants to shut down. Let's keep in mind as well that COVID struck us at a point when our economy was thriving, when restaurants were full for the first time in Malta. It would have been almost impossible to go to a restaurant and find a free space. Now there's this big change. So a lot of restaurants which maybe thrived before will probably end up having to shut down in this new reality. And this is, I guess, something that we're going to have to face as an economy.
Però fl-istess ħin naħseb Chris, one of the factors issa lin-nies ħaġġel in-nies li jmorru ristorant u mhux ieħor huwa kemm ir-ristorant qed joqgħod attent, jiġifieri m'għadix biss il-veduta jew it-tiżjin ta' ġewwa, naħseb jekk tmur post u tara l-mwejjed ħdejn xulxin, ma tidħolx għax tgħid dan huwa riskju għalija. Jiġifieri da ħajkun element ieħor li ħajġel in-nies jidħlu għandek jew le.
And I think what was interesting as well yesterday, a number of videos emerged from hairdressers, barbers, and salons who are explaining what they've done to address the situation. Some of them have been extremely proactive, partitions and a lot of disinfectants and different gowns to be used, etc. And yeah, obviously, a fewer number of people are going to be allowed in the establishments. Ultimately, this is to protect our health. We know that some people have asked for these establishments not even to be open, so this is already a compromise, and now we'll see how that affects us. From the COVID front, in terms of the healthcare aspect, yesterday Charmaine Gauci announced that there were 11.
Actually, not Charmaine. Charmaine didn't had her first off day in 3 months.
Echo, she had her first off day in 3 months, but the health ministry announced that there have been 11 new cases, 4 recoveries, and for the first time in quite a while, the number of active cases has hit the triple digits. So we're saying 103 active cases. Yesterday as well, there were 1,500 swab tests reported. So, it stands to reason that as
iktar ma tfittex, iktar ħassib, però jaqbillek issib milli kollek każijiet ma tafx bihom li qed jinfettawlek il-bqija tal-popolazzjoni.
And obviously, the more we open up, the more it's likely that there will be a bit of an increase in cases. So we'll watch this.
Għal-min ħassu vojt il-bira illum fin-nofsija Charmaine tarġa' tirritorna bil-press conference.
Fatet nilbes it-t-shirt tagħha llum biex nawgurala wkoll. So our second story of the day, another quirky story. We had there was a survey by the organization Willingness, where 14,000 people responded about their sex lives, and what we learned is that people are having less sex than they were before. So before there were 26.8% of respondents who were having sex twice a week. Now that's down to 19%. 36% are saying they're not having any sex at all. Foreplay is down significantly. Maybe people are more health conscious and it's ruining a bit the moment. More people are watching porn, and online dating is up as well, from 4% to 10%. Interestingly, the survey shows that more people are single, and this kind of starts to question, I start to question a bit the statistical relevance of this survey, despite the large number of respondents, because it seems that whereas before there were 66 people who were single, now there's 74% who are single, which seems like quite a large number. On the plus side, people are sleeping more, drinking less, and having better hygiene in general. But I think, it's what I found interesting about this case is in the beginning, it seemed that, we're going to have so many more babies now because couples are locked at home, and probably going to be having more sex. Seems that that's not happening. In fact, there's also a rise in arguing between partners. Interestingly, more of a rise when it comes to those who argue every day. They're arguing even more every day, and those who only argue, once a month are arguing almost less every month. So I don't know what you make of this.
I think the statistics makes people feel more normal. Ġifieri le m'intek xi żwieġ qed jikrolla normali illi qed tiġġieled iktar għax qed qatta ħafna iktar ħin mal-partner tiegħek. Jiena din hija realtà ħafna nies li nqabdu single fil-bidu ta' COVID belawa għax ma jistax joħorġu dejts jiltaqgħu ma' nies ġodda, però il-sħabbi li huma single nsabbarhom billi ngħidilhom għalkemm evitajtu dates ma' nies kretini illi għax dom tkellimhom daqsxejn iktar qabel ma ltqajt magħhom indunajt li they are not worth your time. Kuraġġ, naraw x'jiġri issa li terġa' jibdew jiftħu restaurants, forsi jerġgħu jibdew id-dates. Storja kompletament differenti, però li ġiet affettwata wkoll bil-COVID hija l-famużi pulizija tat traffiku illi fil-11 ta' frar ġew arrestati 34 uffiċjal tal-Pulizija tat Traffiku ġew arrestati u għadhom ma jafux se jsir minnu dan għaliex bħal ħafna affarijiet li ngħalqu minħabba l-COVID kien hemm il-qrati illi ngħalqu. daw il-pulizija spiċċaw jittalbu biex xi ħadd iressaqhom il-qorti biex bekk ikunu jistgħu jagħmlu tajjeb għal ħażin tagħhom jew jekk le m'hemmx biżejjed provi jkunu jistgħu jkomplu jgħixu ħajja normali. Il-bieraħ Lovin Malta pubblikat intervista ma' tlieta minn dawn l-uffiċjali tal-pulizija baqgħu fuq bażi anonima fejn qegħdin sa ċertu punt jammettu illi kien hemm it-taħwit fejn jidħol l-overtime, però minn klihom implikaw illi din hija biss il-bidu ta' li n-nies jindunaw taħwit ikbar fiskali ogħla fil-pulizija. Jekk dan huwa l-każ, jiġri jerġa' jibda l-seduti tal-qorti għaliex jekk hemm il-ħażin għandu jitqaċċat u jsir tajjeb għalihom. Ma jistax ikun li l-pulizija tibqa' laughing stock bla ġir ta' ċerti uffiċjali minn tagħha u dan ukoll ifisser il-Kummissarju tal-Pulizija ġdid għandu ħafna x'jagħmel.
I think it must be said that these police officers, some 34 of them, have been on police bail for almost 3 months now. That's the police bail they've been given. So soon we should have a bit of an answer about whether these are going to be charged or, whether the case is going to be thrown out. It must be said as well that it is a bit strange hearing police officers saying that they knew of abuse at higher levels and didn't report it. And ultimately, this is their duty as police officers. And this idea of, maybe a sense of omerta, a code of silence within the police force. Hopefully, this starts to be to stop, and we'll start to see some developments over there. Another story yesterday we heard about the economy minister Silvio Schembri trying to troll a 15-year-old girl online. He put up some photos of himself visiting Malta Enterprise. In these photos, there were a number of people, and they weren't wearing face masks, and there was, anyway, a 15-year-old girl told him, this is a fine example of social distancing and masks. An innocent enough comment, criticizing maybe a sense of hypocrisy in government, which we've seen a few times before. But Silvio Schembri responded to this tweet by saying, by putting up a photo of this girl at the Daphne Memorial site, saying this is fine, and this girl was there with one other person in the photo, and it happened 9 months ago. So it was quite a silly response. I think also quite insensitive in terms of the Daphne Caruana Galizia murder. To be fair, Silvio Schembri did delete his tweet pretty quickly, but not quickly enough, because it had already started to spread and spark the ire of many people. David Casa told him, you can't even get trolling right, and the only social distancing that he needs to do is to distance himself from social media. Sounds a bit Donald Trumpian, I think. Paula, what do you make of it?
Silvio, if you're watching, you let me down big time. Dal-affarijiet nikont nimmaġina xi kull rispett lejh xi Tony żgħar jagħmilhom ta' fejn kbir fl-età jisultannu li ma jafx juża Facebook jew li juża daqsxejn wisq eżaġerat nħobbuk Tony. Mhux Silvio Schembri, ex-Innovation Junior Minister, Media Savvy, Social Media Savvy, mbagħad come on. You let me down. Għandix kliem.
Our next story is
Kompli fuq social media fil-fatt. Next story, il-risposta tal-Prim Ministru għal-mistoqsija ta' Lovin Malta fuq il-famuż rapport tal-Kummissarju Hisler dwar il-Facebook accounts u kif jintużaw il-fondi pubbliċi fuq il-Facebook accounts tal-politiċi b'mod individwali. Il-Prim Ministru qal li dan il-każ huwa magħluq, ittieħdu d-deċiżjonijiet li kellhom jittieħdu u issa hemm way forward ċara ta' x'jistgħu x'ma jistgħux jagħmlu il-membri parlamentari u il-Kabinett tal-Ministri. Il-Prim Ministru stqar illi ħadd ma miżappropja mill-fondi pubbliċi għaliex dak iż-żmien meta kienu qegħdin jużaw dawn il-flus din il-prassi kienet aċċettata u bekk ma kienu qed jiksru l-ebda liġi. Jiena naqbel miegħu però naf li Chris inti għandek ta' xi tgħid dwar din.
Look, I think first of all this point that there wasn't a code of ethics is a bit of silly point, because first of all, it stands to reason that you shouldn't use taxpayer money on your personal profiles, but also because when Lovin Malta first brought up this story back in 2017, and later on kept on following it, Joseph Muscat, the Prime Minister at the time, had promised in April 2018, that's more than 2 years ago, to draw up a code of ethics. So for 2 years, this code of ethics was conveniently not drawn up, so that they could continue using these funds. Now, the Prime Minister is also hinting that the ministers never used money on their profile, on their profiles, and just shared government information. The reality is that both ministers, Aaron Farrugia and ex-minister Konrad Mizzi, had admitted to using funds of the public on their own personal profiles because they didn't have official ministry pages and because there weren't rules against it. In my opinion, it's not enough for us to take the Prime Minister's words that funds weren't misappropriated. The Standards Commissioner only investigated 5 ministers and found widespread misuse of public resources. So he also, even though he did say from his end this case is closed, which is the only point that the Prime Minister quoted from this report, the Standards Commissioner also sent the report to the Auditor General, who has now been called by a number of organizations, including the Nationalist Party and Republica, to investigate this case in its entirety. So we're going to be seeing whether there is any development over there. The Prime Minister was also asked whether he's comfortable with having ministers of his not even responding to questions asked by the Standards Commissioner, because we had at least 3 of the 5 ministers who didn't even bother responding. And the Prime Minister did not respond about this. Lovin Malta has also asked the Prime Minister to share the code of ethics that supposedly the government is now abiding by. We still don't have that code of ethics being published. We only have the guidelines set out by the Standards Commissioner. And we need to see, whether the ministries are actually going to follow the rules now. We know that a number of ministers have set up their own. A number of ministries have now set up their own pages, but a number of ministries still haven't, and are still sharing publicly funded, publicly produced material on their own individual Facebook pages first and only. So I think that is something, again, we're going to be following it closely. I think there's a big public interest here in making sure there is some regulation over the way taxpayer money is used on something as powerful as social media, even because it creates a sense of imbalance for other MPs. Remember that when a minister uses funds in this way, he's giving himself an advantage over the other MPs in his district who don't have this possibility. That brings us, I think, to the end of Lovin Daily, brought to you by Browns and You. We'll just end with a tip from Browns and You, which is about keeping yourself busy in these times and trying to monitor your mental health, make mental health a priority. And one of the ways you can do this is by connecting with others. So don't be afraid to make that call, that text, that email your friends and family, connect with them on social media, talk face to face, in inverted commas, on Skype or FaceTime and other video chat apps. And if you're feeling lonely, reach out. And that's I think really important today in terms of our mental health, and even in terms of the much less online dating and physical activity, as we said earlier on in the program. So thanks for watching Lovin Daily. Thank you, Paula. Have a great day. Midweek already. Have a day full of
Lovin.